So the URL for this is admin.powerplatform.microsoft.com, and when you get into that portal, you're going to see the different organizations that exist. So, Mark, I know you guys have a couple of different production orgs, but you can also have different sandbox orgs, and those are all managed. Right now I can't. What is the tool called for on-prem? I can't even remember what it was called. The one where you go in and you can do things like create new organizations or whatever. This is synonymous to that.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to create a new sandbox, if I wanted to create a new production org, I could do it from here. There's some additional things that you can do. So I can actually, go into, not sure why it's not doing that. Let me reload the page here. I can actually go into this individual organization and I can interact with it.
Of course, it's not letting you.
There we go. So one thing that I did for this demo, and let me back out of here because I went into the wrong one. I installed the 2020 Wave 1 update because some of the functionality that I wanted to show was included in that update. So one thing to take note of is that the upgrades that previous were either applied, by Windows Update and you hope for the best, or you go in and manually apply a roll-up or a major version update. Those are all handled now through this admin center. And the way that it works is you can go out and schedule your updates to occur both for your sandbox organizations and your production upgrade or your production organizations, and they will upgrade when you're ready. That said, they do eventually force you to upgrade. So, as an example, I've got a customer who resisted the unified interface for about as long as they can, and it's now going to push that unified interface to them. I think it's in September of this year. So the takeaway here is that you kind of lose some control on the upgrade cadence, but you still have the ability to go in and say, well, go ahead and let's upgrade our sandbox org and let's see what breaks, if anything, fix it, and then we'll roll out those fixes to the production org and then upgrade it in a maintenance window that you can define. What you lose is the ability to stay on an old version indefinitely. I mean, like they will only let you stay on an old version for, I think it's like 6 to 8 months or something like that before they force the update. And that's all within here. Additionally, within this one individual organization, I can create or restore backups. So if these behind the scenes, obviously it's running on Microsoft SQL, and it's in full recovery mode. So it's keeping backups of the database that you can restore to a point in time. That said, if I wanted to have like a named instance of a backup, like I'm getting ready to deploy this new thing, I'm worried it might cause problems, whatever, I could go out and create a named labeled backup that I could restore. Okay, so that's where this occurs. It keeps, I think, like 30 days of backups, and you can take a production backup and restore it over a sandbox. You cannot restore a sandbox database over production. You cannot restore production over a production, and this is a little weird. So what you end up doing is if you needed to actually restore your production org, you would restore your production backup to a sandbox database, and then you switch them. And essentially, your sandbox becomes production, and your production becomes sandbox, which is a little counterintuitive, but they just want to make absolutely sure that you don't accidentally overwrite your production database. So that's how they did it. So that's, in terms of the administration, I mean, the administration of CRM really goes down to, close to nothing. The things that you have to watch out for now and kind of keep up with are really about deprecated APIs. Like if you're using, an old way of connecting to, to the web services, which is something we ran into a couple of years ago that we fixed. Then obviously those can break as the tenants get updated. So you kind of have to keep a pulse or your finger on a pulse in terms of what's changing programmatically. Are these JavaScript endpoints going to break? Are we still going to be allowed to use, the XRM dot framework, all those types of things? So, that's still the work, but it's higher level work. It's not like I need to make sure, the server stays on all the time and that kind of stuff. So that's good. Admittedly, when they first switched to this model, I was like a little bit bummed because I like doing the server work and I like keeping all this stuff up and running. But honestly, having that off my plate has been nice. Not having to necessarily worry about I know one thing you guys fight periodically is you get that certificate rollover error.
Right.
Having those things just work and not having to worry about getting a call while I'm on vacation is nice. It just works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was the Power Platform administration and also the multi-instance management. Solutions are handled a little bit differently now. So when we were talking earlier about those different applications, so there's a marketing application that's not currently installed. I can actually manage the different apps within the same admin center. And if I drill into that, I can see the different apps that are actually deployed, for this org. And because it's a demo org, it's got just about everything, right? But if you were in a regular organization, then you probably aren't going to have Adobe Sign installed, or you may not have the field service module installed. But this is where you can go in and actually install these different apps. And then it happens asynchronously, in the cloud. Additionally, there's other apps that you can deploy, so it just has a link into the app source. So you can find other things that are specific to Dynamics and install those as well. Okay. The app for Outlook deployment, and I can't remember if you guys were ever used the actual Outlook add-in.
We have been using the add-in, which is being deprecated or has already been.
It's redeprecated. They undeprecated it and then redeprecated it. If you're using Office 365, which I think you guys are, this experience has gotten 1,000 times better. This was always one of the biggest administrative headaches, was making that add-in work without killing Outlook. So instead of it being a thick install, it's actually using the one of the APIs within Outlook to just add functionality. A very lightweight tool. If I go in here and I look at the Dynamics 365 app for Outlook config, there's a couple of setup options here. The first one is automatically add it for anybody who's set up for emailing within Dynamics. When you have this ticked, then anybody who gets their email mailbox within Dynamics set up and they have server-side sync enabled, it's just going to asynchronously deploy that app. So there's nothing else to do.
Nice.
Within Outlook itself, the next time, or at some point, again, all this is kind of asynchronous. At some point, the functionality will show up, or they can restart their Outlook and it will show up. But those functions that I showed earlier will just be available. So provisioning is a lot easier.
I know that previously one of the big hurdles that we had was like Connie, she still does. She manages or has in an Outlook. I ended up creating a complete separate user for her with a virtual machine, and she has a separate Outlook account just for managing all of the executives' mailboxes. So with the Outlook add-in, if you have, I believe it's more than three or four Outlook mailboxes in your Outlook, and you enable the add-in, then your Outlook blows up.
Yep, I'm not surprised. It was it's been a sore source of frustration for years. So it was great. It was great to see them release this, and the reason they undeprecated it for a while is because there wasn't complete feature parity. But at this point, the feature parity is there for the most part. So you can do anything that you could do in the old client and the app now.
Okay, cool.
And Matt, did you mention that whole app for Outlook experience is completely configurable?
No, I didn't. But you did.
There you go. It's been mentioned.
So you can define what Jonathan's talking about. You can define what fields are going to be visible on that pane that pops out. So like if I'm creating a new account, then I could say, I only want to show these fields, or I want to only allow these particular functions within the Outlook experience. So it makes it a little bit easier to kind of define that workflow for somebody who's just wants to live in Outlook, but they want to track cases and they want to track contacts. You can kind of limit it down for them.
Okay.
The next section on here that I was going to just briefly talk about is Power Automate, and Jonathan alluded to it earlier. Actually, no, it's this link. Power Automate is previously known as Flow, is the replacement workflow engine for any asynchronous workflow within Dynamics. And the what I mean by that is, you can do the same types of triggers. A document was created, something was assigned, whatever. The difference is that you can interact externally with a lot of different connectors. So I'm not going to get into a huge amount of detail on here, but I can go ahead and create a new one, and I can create an automated flow that's going to happen when an event occurs. So I'll just call this test, and I can define that event. So when a record is created or updated or deleted, or I can use something more generic. I can also extend this. So if I wanted to create my own Power Automate connector and have it integrate with something that's very custom, then I can create my own connector and say, when an event happens in this other system, and it could be a very basic system, or it could be something, that's very modern, then you could have that integration trigger certain things to occur within Dynamics. Okay. So the idea with Flow is that it's just instead of it being a workflow engine that's specific to Dynamics, it's now a workflow system that's really can encompass your entire business, and then it works. You can do the same things that you previously did within the Dynamics workflow engine.
Okay.
You want to add anything to that, Jonathan?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, and Power Automate's one of those things too. You could spend what's that thing that Paul attends? It's like a monthly, or it's on some type of cadence, like the Power Roadshow or something like that. Where
it's I don't know the term for it, but yeah, there's like a monthly, and it's a Power Platform thing where they highlight a lot of the features and functionality from Power Apps and Power Automate and Power BI.
Right.
And now that everything is going virtual, Microsoft is actually opening a lot of their events up for free. Like on Wednesday, they had their Business Apps Summit, which was a completely free virtual experience that went into a lot of the new features and functionality for the Power Platform, like Power Virtual Agents, so that you can have bot-like technology responding to, folks on a website portal or otherwise. So yeah, there's some of that stuff that's just out there for free. You just gotta find it.
Cool.
The last thing on my list here is really more of just it should be a relatively quick discussion, but the integration that we updated a couple years ago should work fine with Dynamics Online. So I know Marty was talking about having a lot of integration points, the different tiers and the different products that they own. It's just a matter of going in and changing the connection string to make that work with the cloud tool. So I wanted to point that out and just make sure that you're aware that it's not like we have to rewrite the integration. So I talked earlier about how the form customizations and all of that can be bundled and pushed into the cloud. We have a solution to push all the data into the cloud as well, and then we also have the integration that you guys are using. Should you want to, will continue to work.
Okay. Well, I do know that our system is full. And full of a bunch of ISVs that we don't use anymore. Like we've got XRM1 from the DCE days, and there are quite a lot of managed entities and forms and what have you in our existing CRM that are just kind of stuck there. It has data associated with it, so you really can't get rid of it. And we have expert logics, click dimensions, and I believe there's one or two other ones in there that just aren't being used anymore. So the thought with this system would be to deploy a new system straight out of the box, and then cherry pick what information and forms and entities we want that we have existing, and either somehow transfer them or import them into the new system, or just recreate them in the new system.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
That seems like a good exercise. What we would end
Yep.
up doing is we would, essentially set up that tenant. It just wouldn't be the system of record until we had it the way you wanted it.
Right.
So,
Okay. And what I'd mentioned earlier about keeping our options open for staying on premise versus going online. I would absolutely love to go to the cloud if we can. But I found out that our CSP partner in Switzerland is Crayon. And I have sent an email to our account rep in Switzerland explaining the situation and asking if they have a similar SKU for migrating us to the cloud to get us the 40% discount per user license as well. The issue with dealing with anyone in Europe is their response time to email. I don't understand this concept that it can take a week. It's not like you put a stamp on it and stick it in the mailbox and it takes the post guy a week for it to get there. But typically it takes a while to get any information back from any company in Switzerland. So, and if we can't get the 40% discount, the difference in price for the 35 user licenses we're looking at is going to be somewhere around $12,000 to $14,000 a year. So that justification there versus that's why I really need to see what features we'll be losing to stay on premise, to see are those features worth that extra cost for us to go out to the cloud, and let Dave and Marty and the executives make those final decisions of, yes, it's worth it for us to go to the cloud, or that $12,000 a year savings to stay in-house. Well, we could do an upgrade, twice a year with your help for that $12,000 a year,
Yep.
So,
so you're saying if you were to stay on-prem, you would buy the licenses through your US channel and just leave it deployed, and that's how you get the discount. Okay.
Exactly. Through you guys. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yep. I can say that, and unfortunately it doesn't really help us and it doesn't really help you guys. A lot of that new functionality is just being deployed in the cloud. But I'll do my best to kind of delineate, at least from what we showed today, what is specific to cloud.
Okay. Well, Ashley, there's the link that I had shared with you that goes to docs.microsoft that actually displays some of that delineation between online only and on-prem, and what features are both. So maybe you can, Ashley, if you don't, maybe you can send that over to Mark at some point. So I don't think it's the be-all end-all list, Mark, but it should definitely help with trying to identify what is exclusively online.
Yeah. Cool.
And just so I understand, the complication is that the Office tenant is in Europe.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And since it's in the European sales region, no CSP from North America can sell to the European sales region.
Well, and we can't even manage any of the subscriptions in there either. I mean, if we just wanted to try to be delegated admin, I don't even know if that would work. We haven't tried that yet, but.
And I'm not sure what channels I would need to go to voice a complaint to Microsoft about this, because I'm sure we're not the only worldwide company that runs into this issue where, we have, we're a worldwide organization, but we have multiple offices working autonomously. and need to be able to work with our own CSPs locally versus having to use one that doesn't have a firm grasp on the English language.
Well, if you find the right avenue, Mark, please let us know.
Well, I mean, it's all it's like a labyrinth of trying to figure out who and where to go to.
You're absolutely correct. And in fact, the support case that we had initiated from our side to try to get to the bottom of this, I had a very frustrating conversation with that support rep, trying to understand why this is set up the way that it is, and his answer was just, "Oh, that is how it is," and who can I talk to? There is nobody to talk to, right? I mean,
we might try Ben Vollmer.
Situation.
We could try Ben Vollmer.
I don't know that name.
I'll send you his contact information, but he's over actually a lot of the field service stuff, but he's relatively high up in the dynamics space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's worth an attempt. I mean, I think traditionally we've been maybe lucky enough that the majority of our customers that have international businesses, the HQ is here in North America. Right. You guys are the different scenario where your parent is not here, and that's where all your stuff is registered. So this is the first time that we've come across this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to happen with some of our other customers now. Now that I'm thinking of it, though, because we have a couple of others that are headquartered. Like there's one in Australia. We've got one that I know Ashley's working with. So we do need to get to the bottom of this somehow. It's going to cost us LBMC a lot of money to not be able to sell licenses to these companies, and it's going to cost you guys a lot of frustration to not be able to work with us.
Like William Barnett, I mean, they have folks in Germany and Asia, but all of those licenses are coming through the South Carolina office through us. So
it's frustrating.
Yeah, very much so. And I understand why they want to do it that way for, non-compete reasons. They don't want CSPs from Switzerland competing with CSPs here in the States, competing with CSPs in Asia, But they have to understand that the business structure out there is not like Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? I hate to cut you guys off. I do have a 1 o'clock. So is there anything else from a technical perspective that we need to cover?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Hey guys, I'm back again.
Hey Marty.
I got one.
Hey there.
I'm on a mobile device now, but sorry for the road noise. You didn't cover it today, but if you could provide me a link where I could learn more about it, I'd like to learn a little bit more about the integration between LinkedIn and the CRM.
It's funny. I'm actually going through a course on that right now. Actually, I think Jonathan is too.
Yep. Yep. So we can definitely do that, Marty. And if you haven't had the opportunity to look at that video that Ashley sent that actually demonstrates that functionality, we'll include that as well as part of our follow-up with some additional information and this recording that we just did for the technical discussion so that you, Mark, can disseminate as needed.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I appreciate y'all's time today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for hanging out with us longer. We'll circle back and let us know if there are other things that are our interest or that we need to discuss.
Sounds good.